So Dave Forster in Chicago has been trading the Tradier platform as well as on a long-term basis Thinkorswim. And so we get a sort of double your 2-for-1 here, because Dave also has some very interesting approaches to trading credit spreads, and that he's done on both platforms. Tradier being an extremely attractively priced platform from a company of very good provenance as well, that's known for in the API sphere. So with that, I will hand it over to Dave.
All right, thank you, Don. So yeah, in terms of my background, I came from an IT background, did a lot of programming, that type of thing, and then basically in 2008, I lost my job. And if you ever saw the movie Office Space, there's a line in there where somebody says, "I have been missing a lot of work lately," and then the guy says, "Well, I can't say really I was missing it." So it was sort of the same thing with me, and working in IT. So back in the day, so in Chicago, they used to have in-office classes. So they actually had a classroom right in the TOS office, and Tom Sosnoff used to teach the classes. And back then, I was like, sign me up. I'll be here every single time, there is one. So I started trading pretty much, I think I lost my job in 2007, and then I started trading real money in 2008. Yep. Baptism by fire, basically. So what I learned, I think that was super helpful, is that a lot of what you hear in terms of options trading is that you hear things discussed what I'll call like one-dimensionally. And that basically means that, if this happens, like with theta, if the day goes by, you should get this kind of theta. But if you're familiar with the Greeks, and I'll say up front, please ask your questions whenever you have them, because they might be sort of context or time sensitive. So I'm watching the chat box. If you got a question, ask it, and I'll try and knock it out in roughly the first hour. All right, so back to one-dimensional thinking. So what I heard was a lot of, because I used to be a programmer, right? So I did a lot of if then else statements. And so I think options trading, as it was taught to me back then, and I still hear a lot of it, is very one-dimensional. There's just if then. If a day goes by, I should get this kind of theta as long as I'm selling premium. And that approach, is pretty limited. So what I'm going to try to do is to try to get you to look at things multidimensionally. So that, because basically, if you really get into the Greeks and you understand them at a high level, you understand that basically you have multiple moving parts. That's what I mean by like the multidimensional part, that basically, so if we just take like Boeing here, and yeah, I know I'm looking at a chart, I'm not looking at the trade tab, but if you just, this is a representation of what price did. So you can get a handle on, to some degree, what the option Greeks are going to do, because they're a derivative of what the actual price of the stock is, right? So I sort of decided fairly early on that, I need to really focus more on the price of the underlying. So going back to the Greeks, there's a lot of relationships that when the extremes happen, they they really don't work. And that's what I saw a lot of, that basically options are supposed to be priced based on one standard deviation kind of move, and then it becomes a question of, does the one standard deviation move happen or not? So so in I guess in the first half hour at least, I'm going to try to get you to try and look at things that way. And I guess just to step back, I'll try and introduce myself a little bit more. So basically, so my deal was, I was taught by Tom Sosnoff and others in the Chicago office of TOS back in 2008, and a whole lot of other people. And, basically what I learned trading with real money in 2008 was that a lot of times what was supposed to happen didn't. And because those markets were extreme, but hey, this is my first year of trading, so I didn't think it was extreme. I mean, I didn't know anything else. But from there, I went on to work for markettamer.com. I ran a trading room for them for about 5 to 6 years. I also did some teaching for them. I did a lot of credit spreads. Basically, that's all they wanted me to do in that trading room, was credit spreads only. I adjust my option positions. I'm not going to really get into that with this presentation. It's a bit too advanced, but to say that, with the trading room that I ran for 5, 6 years, somewhere around there, after adjustment, 94% of the trades were adjusted to profitability. And I think a lot of it is because I've sort of used this multidimensional kind of thinking, if you will. Yeah, another way of looking at it is that, I don't play chess personally, but from what I understand, that in chess, whoever thinks the farthest ahead wins, basically. So when I'm trading, I'm not just thinking about, okay, what if what I want to happen happens? I'm thinking about, okay, well, what if what I want doesn't happen within the time frame, or what if there's news, etc. So I'm going to use Boeing here as an example. And so the other way that I try to look at things multidimensionally, instead of just the Greeks, is I try to look at the different forms of analysis. So there's sort of just sticking to stocks, the underlying, and not getting into the Greeks, all that, just looking at it as stock analysis only. I would say there's 3 forms of analysis. There's fundamental analysis, there's sentiment analysis, and there's technical analysis. So given that, and I studied all 3, I had to basically say, okay, which of these do I really want to focus on? Because, to me, fundamentals, unless there's news that's significant, they change once a quarter on earnings, and that's it. So I decided, okay, as long as the company that I'm going to trade is going out of business, then fundamentals, they aren't really my primary concern. Sentiment, I think sometimes it matters more in the market than other times. Certainly with the war in the Ukraine now, yeah, I mean, sentiment pretty much hit the front page. So I think in terms of market analysis, you might find it helpful to sort of look at it as, it's sort of like between fundamentals, technicals, and sentiment, I like to say it's like three people trying to drive a car at the same time. And in terms of who the driver is, they're each like sort of in turn pushing each other out of the way, if you will. So I try to use all three forms of analysis. And the sentiment can be helpful, in terms of your trading, like looking at Boeing here as an example, because Boeing, let me grab a little bit more of the chart here. I might still be able to get, I'll zoom out a little bit, might still be able to grab the news here too. All right, so on this day, the 21st, this would be an example of using sentiment as a reason for a trade. And so back here, and they're not giving me, I normally get the news over there. But regardless, back on this day, there was a report that one of the Boeing planes had crashed. So I thought, okay, that's that probably means Boeing's not going to go up real quick. Is probably what it most likely means. In the overall market, was going up just like Boeing was going up here, it was continuing to go up, but Boeing went down and pretty much stayed down. And so from that news, a gap was created. And that gap here, as you can see, if I draw on a trend line here, that gap was respected. And to some degree still is, because, the last 3 days have still touched it. So out of the three forms of analysis, I tend to use technicals a lot. And I like them because they allow me to create an expectation. And I can trade with an expectation of saying, okay, if Boeing does not fill this gap in the next 7 days, then I can sell a bear call beyond that high and it should go out worthless. The thing that you have to be careful with, and I see this with a lot of people, is that they, will try to go like too far out in expiration, something like that. So it's important to just understand why you're getting in the trade and then not overstay your welcome with an expiration. Because as you can see, okay, so Boeing was going along with the overall market going up, then it went down. I'll get rid of this fib here because it's probably just a distraction more than anything else. So, for me, that's a potential trade, idea. And so the thing is, though, I didn't necessarily wait. I did wait, I should say. I didn't necessarily jump in right away and say, okay, Boeing's down, I'm gonna sell that. It bounced right up along with the overall market the next day. So I said, okay, once it tried to fill in this gap and failed, okay, there's my entry. And I sold a bear call up at, it was 195 or 197.50, one or the other. And I like too that 197.50, was a prior high that, it moved pretty strongly down before. You know, a lot of times if you look at where a move initiated from, you know, which I would say is pretty much that day when it took out the low of that day, it continued to sell off. A lot of times that will act as, you know, either support or resistance, in this case, resistance. So, you know, that's looking at, you know, sentiment is a reason to do a trade potentially. And then, you know, going back to the chess idea, I looked at it and said, okay, well, you know, if I'm wrong, because I think I sold the bear call sometime that day. Because as you can see, I like alerts. They're one of the favorite ways of using Thinkorswim for me. You know, that if a price goes to a certain level, you know, that to me, you know, basically creates an opportunity. So, and the other idea with technicals, you know, they basically tell me when I'm wrong. Because to me, that's the most important thing. A lot of times, you know, with doing credit spreads, if you're right, the trade will take care of itself. It's really when you're wrong that you have to be concerned about. So, you know, after getting in, just to give you an example, you know, after getting in that day, you know, I would want to know, okay, does it go back up to that high? And then does it take out that high? Because that to me, what basically means, okay, the sort of news effect, it's likely over. And, you know, that's why I was also saying you don't, with something like this, you don't want to overstay your welcome, because, you know, that's what you saw here. You got the gap up and it took out that previous swing high. Some people call it a pivot high, that kind of thing. So, you know, to me, if you look at technical analysis and in terms of, okay, what do I have to work with? You've got price, volume, or time. That's pretty much it. I mean, unless anybody can think of anything else. I mean, you know, in terms of technical indicators, you know, they're all some kind of derivation of price, volume, or time. And the way I look at it is that in terms of my trading, I'm probably not going to lose money because of volume. So that's not such a big deal. Time, you know, I may or may not. It sort of depends, sort of like, you know, with this trade, okay, you did the bear call there. You know, if I went out 30 days, I'd have a problem. I mean, we have a bearish engulfing candle today. So, you know, maybe it'll just shop around, but, you know, I was definitely better off just sticking with the shortest expiration I could get and get out of it. All right, so I'm thinking time-wise, I could probably, I think I'm close to wrapping this up so we stay on topic. But I think it's important for you to understand sort of how I trade, how I look at things. And then at the very end too, so for those of you who are maybe crazy advanced, you're really bored and wonder when I'm going to get something interesting, I got some for you before Don talks about the second part. So, all right. Yeah, so to sort of finish that thought, price to me is the most important thing, because that's how I'm going to make or lose money on the trade. So I pay a lot of attention to the price on the chart because the option is just an extension of that. And I need something objective to tell me when I'm wrong. You know, if I'm just sort of focusing on the Greeks, they might seem okay at some point, but then, you know, I might get really whacked, with some kind of news event. And that's where sentiment comes in again. Okay, so I think what I'll do too is I'll give you an idea of what I like most about Thinkorswim. So what I use a lot, you can see I'm definitely a fan of the alerts. And I also like unusual options activity. So that is in this, I think they call these, let me collapse that. They call these gadgets over here. And so this gadget, I don't know why it's not letting me select that, but okay. So I think I have to go up all the way. Yeah, there we go. Maybe not. All right, so this gadget, you can tell I also like watch lists, but this gadget is called Trade Flash. And so it can give you different info in terms of what's going on. And some of it depends how you trade. I'm a little bit, all right. Thank you, Oswald, appreciate it. Yep, it's down there. So here's the list of gadgets. And so that gadget on the top is called Trade Flash. And you can select that to get this screen on the top. All right, so, and I'll cover, I'm trying to sort of get a lot in a brief period of time, but I'm going to cover what I like most about TOS, and then I'll also talk to you about my most profitable trade last year. And I can tell you it came right from here, looking at Trade Flash. And I realize it's sort of a, I don't know, I think some of you might find this interesting, but it came from unusual options activity. In Trade Flash terminology, they call those big delta trades. So that's why I have that selected. Okay, so in terms of what else I like about TOS, I like Shadow Trader, if you're not familiar with him. If you click on chat rooms, you can open up this screen. And then if you then click on chat rooms, click on Shadow Trader, will open this tab. And you can click that watch tab. He starts talking at 9:15 Eastern, takes a couple hours for lunch, and then he goes to the close. TOS has gotten rid of a lot of stuff they used to have. Like they used to have, I don't know if anybody remembers Ben Watson and Futures Cast. Ben was great. He's gone. Mr. Script is gone. They used to have ThinkScript chats. I'm a programmer, okay. I found ThinkScript interesting. But, for free, I think Brad does most of the program. And so this is what it looks like when you click that watch button. I think Brad does a great job. I'll upgrade him to phenomenal. I think Brad's great. He's a shorter time frame kind of guy than probably a lot of you are interested in, but he talks about stocks, talks about futures, talks a lot about the overall market. And is always talking about news as it happens. He's got some kind of news feed he looks at, whether it's Reuters briefing, somebody like that. And as soon as it hits, so he says what it is. All right, so, and you can pause it, and that's what I did. I mean, I don't necessarily have the time to listen to him every day. Sometimes I listen to him at night, but you got a pause button down here. I can unpause it, and then you're looking at his screen. And this is what he normally looks at. Market internals. I won't get into those. He could explain them better than me. but that's pretty much it for in terms of what I like about toss. So I haven't seen any questions, so I'm a little concerned. Like that sort of makes me think you're all like either really bored or you're confused as all get out, and I don't know which it is. So I just want to say up front here too that I don't have any relationship with Toss, Tradier, and the books I'm going to talk about later. I'm just here to try and help you guys. So, all right. So we got a question. All right, Luis, do I use anything for the home screen? I don't. I actually have that disabled. Yeah. So that screen that's, so I guess you have to sort of realize that. So I used Toss back when it was Thinkorswim, before InvestTools bought them out and before Ameritrade bought them out. So since I'm more old school, they did a lot of stuff that to me is like just sort of fluff. I think there's some way to get the home screen up here, but I disabled that a long time ago, if I'm thinking of the right thing. But I sort of, yeah, unless you have any other questions on that, I think I'm thinking of the right thing. As soon as you lost Toss, they used to have this home screen with what, in my opinion, was like all this useless stuff. And I was just like, just get me the platform, and, it had like their, they had like their training that was going on during the day and all that. All right, so in terms of sort of a way of looking at trading, looking at it, what I like to call multidimensionally, in terms of different kinds of analysis, having an expectation, that kind of thing, does that make sense, or is that like clear as mud for people? And I'm not here to say this is the right way either. What I'm doing is I'm telling you how I trade. I'm not saying it's right. I used to think that there were so many different ways to trade, that it was, like impossible to understand all of them, and that really I thought it was very hard. But what I didn't realize is that I think there's very few ways for me to trade. I actually think there's probably hundreds of ways to trade to be successful, but I think there's very few for me. So I think it's a whole kind of process you have to go through. And part of it's just, trial and error to understand, how to trade, even what strategies to use. I do use a lot of credit spreads. I like the flexibility of them, and I'm not the most directional guy. I do debit spreads, but I didn't even really start doing those until the last 10 or 12 years. For the first 10 years that I was trading, I just did credit spreads and that was it. But I do think that that's another thing that is helpful. All right, good question. How about journaling? Do I keep a journal of my trades? How do I do it? So here's how I look at journaling. I used to do it, and for me, I think that journaling really sort of, a lot of the ways I've seen it done anyway, is really focused on a lot of the sort of like minutia in the details, and I normally love details, but what I learned, see, like I didn't trade earnings, I think, until 7 or 8 years ago. And then that's when I really realized and started looking at journaling differently, because I traded earnings. Because like I traded team, might be, I might have to go back a ways on this. But I think sort of short answer, what I learned about journaling is that what I need to focus on is not so much the details of the trade itself, that I needed to focus on why I was doing the trade, what my expectation was, and if I was wrong, then, and I adjusted, then what was my reasoning for doing wrong, for doing the trade, and if I adjusted, why did I adjust? And even it got to the point at times where when I was very much into the Greeks, I wanted to understand, okay, what were the Greeks when I did this trade? I actually tracked it. And it was interesting. I talked with, somebody who teaches options. You probably would all know him. And he was saying, we're going to do this trade because we're going to make money on implied volatility. And so I just asked him, I said, well, then why don't we track it? Why don't we actually put down the implied volatility of the trade when we got in? Because, a lot of people talk about implied volatility as if, you just look at the VIX and there it is. But this is the 30-day expected volatility, right? This is 30-day implied volatility. It's based on the futures anyway. It's a little bit of a convoluted product. So in my mind, if we look at something like the spiders, the implied volatility that should matter is what I traded. So if I sold this option, yeah, I got IV on here. So if I sold this option, for example, at 25%, if that's important to you, track it. So I would say journaling, put in there what is important to you, because journaling shouldn't have a purpose in and of itself, just like, I wrote all the stuff down. What do you want to get out of it? I mean, I guess that's what I would ask you, because I journal my earnings trades now. I didn't start doing that until a year ago, because I realized that the problem is that, okay, I traded, that's the one stock, I don't know, you probably never heard of it, Team Atlassian. So I traded this a while ago. And the problem that I realized is I got my clock cleaned on this one earnings trade. I was down something like $3,000. And I stayed in it for an entire quarter. But then I realized by the time the next quarter came around, I don't know where that is. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. It could have been that one. Yeah, it could have been that quarter. Let's just say it is. So I lost about $3,000 on this move. And then I adjusted it for an entire quarter. And then I think I was down $1,000 still. And then that next earnings came around. I'm like, dang, what'd they do last quarter? So I would just say for me, the reason to journal is because you want to make your trades repeatable. And if you don't know why you got into a trade, and if you don't know why that trade went against you, because presumably, unless you just believe that everything works out in terms of the probabilities, and that if I sell a 20 delta, I'll make money 80% of the time, you're trading with some kind of expectation. And you want to know when that expectation is not being met. And if if something happened you didn't expect, that's what I would journal. So, all right. All right, Paulette asks, can you please discuss strategies for buying a call or put when a 2 to 3 standard deviation move is expected? Paulette, glad you could join us. So yeah, I think that
We can't get too deep into strategies because
okay.
the main purpose is to compare how we
Yeah, okay. So
trade in.
I'll try to be fairly brief on this.
Sure.
And I think that, so sort of like I said before, when you're trading, you are trading price, time, and volatility all together. You can't just trade one. You're trading all of them at the same time. So if you want to trade directionally, you have to have an expectation of what's going to happen in terms of price, time, and volatility. So if I had an expectation that a 2 to 3 standard deviation move is expected, after today, maybe so. We probably have support at 200, maybe the 50, but probably what I would do is, either just that strong of a move, just buy the put, or if you want to get really strong, do a risk reversal, basically, or a spread risk reversal. Sell a bear call to pay for a bear put, for even or a credit, something like that. All right, and then Tom asked, do I use calendars in my credit spreads around earnings? No, I don't. I've looked at that, and I had pretty much horrible results with calendars on earnings. Maybe somebody else knows how to do it. At this point, I don't. My earnings trades are hold. I trade them directionally 90% of the time. I do not sell iron condors, whatever. And so, all right. So let me sort of wrap up that discussion, and I think is a segue into Tradier. Well, Don, let me ask you, where are we at in terms of time? I mean,
Well, I think the main purpose of the meeting is to get into the Tradier. So,
all right, I will do that. Okay. So I'm going to leave the other stuff to the end.
sure.
Like the books then. So whenever you want to get on to the other discussion, just let me know and I'll make it quick in terms of the other discussion. All right. So Tradier as a model, okay, it's different than a lot of you are used to. So conceptually, I think most of you are used to the platform is the broker. So with Ameritrade, you can trade on their website, but most of us are going to use a platform, and that's that broker's platform. Tradier changes that model in the sense that Tradier is a broker only. They offer a lot of platforms and you can pick or choose. So I think they might have some relationship with TradeHawk. I'm in the process of trying to figure that out. So the way that it basically works with them is that you start off with, just a regular login, web-based, you put that in, and then once you put that in, then this is a little bit more secure than what TOS does. You have to basically connect up the Tradier account with whatever platform you're using. And they do allow you to switch platforms if you want to. What you can do is click that checkbox. I saved this because I already checked that, but normally, so every 30 days, you got to do that. And then once you are logged in, basically, this is where you go from Tradier, the broker, to the platform. So the access to the platforms is through the broker, and then in an API, application programming and interface. That's what this does. So once you click approve access, then that launches the platform. And in terms of what platforms available, I will give that to you in the chat. You can take a look. But basically, so here's a list of the different platforms. And so there, if anybody's watching the recording, it's just brokerage.tradier.com/platforms. I'll put that in the chat for you. Okay, so the main one is pretty much TradeHawk. And TradeHawk has been around for quite a while. There are also some other ones that I'm assuming a lot of you might be more interested in. If you're a Tim Knight fan, Slope of Hope, Dimension Orats. I'm not really familiar with it, but it sounds like some of you might like it. Option View, my guess is that a fair amount of you are familiar with that. And then there's also one down here, or Option.net Explorer. So, I mean, I remember back in the day, you used to have to pay for one, you used to pay in pounds, but, what you can do now is you can use the platform, and then your commissions are built right into it. So as this says, you can get access to Option.net and commission-free equity and option trading. They should say $65 a month. But that's what it is, $65 a month for that. So that's the platforms.
So just to clarify, Dave, for people, and you've already said it, but I just want to make sure people understand, this is a completely different model from Thinkorswim. With Thinkorswim, there's only the software and the brokerage all come together in one bundle. For this, in this case, you get to choose from a variety of platforms. And while people look down on that, some people do, it's actually the dominant model in the industry generally, apart from the consumer side. The consumer side is one platform, one broker. But in the real world, in the industrial world, in the commercial financial world, the general model is you buy your platform and your broker separately. So Dave is showing us that you could choose your platform. If you're starting from Tradier as the broker, you could choose which platform.
Yeah, and they will let you switch the platforms too. So, normally if you want to use one, well, you gotta, I remember the day you used to pay for it for a year in pounds. That's the way it used to be. But if you want to try one, you want to try it for a month, pay $65, get unlimited option trading. You can do that for 1 month, and then you're like, well, I want to try Option View. Okay, you can switch to Option View. They'll let you switch, back and forth a year. So Kishore asks, are SPX and RUT also commission free? So, and Don's going to break this down in big detail, but the trades are free, but SPX and RUT have what's called single listed index option fees associated with them that they do charge. So the commissions are free, but for those two specific underlyings, you pay for the index fee. And then, yeah, John confirmed it's still £500 a year. So, if you like one, this is a lot better pricing than that. Plus, you get free commissions. So
just to clarify, Dave, are you saying that you don't have to make separate arrangements with let's say in this case, Option.net Explorer, that it's just bundled?
Everything you do everything through Tradier. So if you say you want to switch platforms, you just talk with customer service, they'll switch you. They do only allow you to switch once a month though.
So this would be a good way to try out. You could try out Option View for a while. You could switch to OptionNet Explorer and then go back to some of the other platforms.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to bring up that point, that they should really say this is 65 a month. So Tradier is going to take out of your account the 65 a month, however they bill it. I don't know what time they do it, but yeah, you can tell them, look, next month I want to switch to this, and then they'll switch out the platform for you.
And are they all $65 or varying
No, they're
prices?
different.
Okay.
So OptionNet Explorer is, I mean, that's a pretty good deal. It's 65 bucks. So the one, I think, I think Option Views more. I will mention, so the platform that I'm going to be demoing is Trader Oasis. You can see they're 150 a month. I'm a beta user, so I got it for less than that for testing it. And then Option View, I believe, is more, but that's why I wanted to give you the link, so everybody can take a look at it. And yeah, Option View, oh, they say only trial, so I don't know how long that lasts or anything. But the link that Don put in the meeting notice for getting TradeHawk for 60 a month, that's a fantastic deal through Arrowmere, because if you go here and you say you want the unlimited, it's 85 a month. And so probably the easiest place to start, unless you really want to say like, that's what I want, I would probably recommend starting with TradeHawk, just because the support is there so much. Like here, you can schedule a free tour. You don't have to be a customer to schedule one of these tours. So you can, go right here. And I think you can basically, I'll give you this link too. I know with Toss, they offer the one-on-one platform demos, but you can do 2 a year. They don't allow now for any more. So you could just click that. It should bring up the calendar. And then the guy you will probably meet with is Lex Lutheringhausen. And I think I finally got his name right. But you can see there's pretty good availability. But TradeHawk has there's a lot of videos. That's where I started, is basically looking at their YouTube channel, and it's broken down very, very task specific. If you want to do a stock order, stock and options, OCO, it's all pretty much broken down there. So I guess
this is explicitly a Thinkorswim competitor, more or less. He's aiming to have feature parity with Thinkorswim.
Yeah, and I think they're taking a different approach, because I think they're realizing that there are groups like this out there, and I think they're sort of going bottom up. Whereas Ameritrade, being more corporate, I mean, I've seen a lot of flexibility from them. Just like, when I emailed you and said their SPX fee was 65 cents a contract, and they dropped it to 45. I mean, I think from what I've seen, they really are interested in what retail traders want, which honestly, I've just seen degradation from Ameritrade in terms of customer support, pretty much, a lot of things since they bought out Toss. So, I was really encouraged that they dropped the SPX fee, because, that's, to me, that's very, customer centric. And yeah, so the platform that I use is Trader Oasis. I don't want to get too caught up in that. It's a copy of TradeHawk. Okay, so basically the same core underlying functionality is TradeHawk. So
It's a white label of TradeHawk.
excellent way to put it. Exactly. So they licensed the copy because one of the things that Trader Oasis wanted to do is be able to keep track of their cost basis. So Trader Oasis could be a really good fit for you if that's important to your trading. So if you do something like a campaign calendar and you're like, hey, I want to add in all these shorts that I've sold and figure out, okay, how much is that whittled down my cost basis? Trader Oasis can do that.
Well, that has been a very frequent request. That comes up time and time again with Thinkorswim. People have to go to incredible gymnastics to do
Right.
that in Thinkorswim.
Right. And I tried doing it. I just gave up on it. So you can do it with Trader Oasis. They do that through what they call strategies. So basically, and that's probably a bit too advanced to get up into this talk, and I'll try to keep
Yeah.
it higher level, but I just want to let you know you can do that because that is what the folks behind Trader Oasis wanted. And they went through broker after broker, like E-Trade, Options House. They went through 3 or 4 brokers until Tradier said, yeah, we'll do it. Because you can build your own platform on Tradier. You're not constrained by what's already there. So I don't have anything in here now. I pretty much got out of all my positions, but I believe, let me see if I have a screenshot to sort of show you what it looks like. I'll just go through and put something in it. So in terms of the layout, all right, so this pretty much is, you can look at this as being the same as the upper tabs of TOS. They give you everything condensed down into one screen with TradeHawk by default. But what you can do, what a lot of these arrows do, is that you can, as that says, undock it, or in TOS terms, you'd say detach. If you want to detach your monitor tab and look at your positions only on one screen, this could basically do the same thing. So if I were to undock that, you can't see the confirmation, it's on another screen, but I'll say yes. And then, if I want to maximize it, just hit that. Maybe I have to drag it. Yeah, so I can just expand it out. All my orders would be in here. A lot of the, it's very similar kind of columns that you put in here in terms of the P&L and all that. So, if you're, so it really depends how many screens you want to work off of. I tend to do a lot of detaching, but you can put that back where it was, and that'll set it right back down in there. You can make a bunch of different layouts. Okay, John asked, does Trader Oasis have a back testing feature? If so, could you walk us through places you can trade with? No, not that I'm aware of, but so in preparation for this meeting, I had a meeting with Lex Lutheringhausen, which pretty much is sort of the face of TradeHawk. And I had a whole bunch of questions about what is now TradeHawk 1.0. So he's like, let's look at 2.0. So I can tell you that they are working on stuff, and back testing is super hard. From a programming perspective, I just understand where that's at. So I'll say I'm not aware of one. They may be coming out one with 2.0. But it's, in my opinion, they're very responsive. So, you know, if you ask for it, you know, they will, you know, I'm sure they want to do it because they're the most flexible broker, you know, I've ever seen, honestly. All right.
But could you do it directly out of, let's say instead of Trader Oasis, you have a lot of other choices. OptionNet Explorer, could you do it all out of OptionNet Explorer, and presumably it would track all of that?
Yeah, good point. I use multiple platforms, honestly. You know, to me, TradeStation or NinjaTrader would be really good with back testing. I tried back testing with Toss on demand. I found it personally brutal. So, you know, at back testing, it depends really what you want to back test. I'm assuming you want automated, you know, probably TradeStation or Ninja are the best with that. And, you know, I will probably never get rid of Toss just because I've used it for decades. So you know, I don't have to get rid of Toss. I can use both. So yeah, that would be my answer. Figure out what you want to back test, and which can do it. I would seriously look at TradeStation. All right, Andrew asked, could I repeat the exchange fee for SPX and RUT with Tradier? 45 cents a contract with SPX, 18 cents with RUT last I checked. All right, and then
And we'll get into that a lot more in just a few minutes.
right. I mean, yeah, Don's gonna really cover that. Can I show how you use Trade Flash on Toss? All right, so yeah, let me go back to that real quick. So Trade Flash, basically, how I use it is for unusual options activity. I could probably spend 2 hours just talking on unusual options activity. It's basically shows you institutional level option buys and sells.
What is this, by the way? What is Trade Flash?
Trade
Is it a
Flash,
third party gizmo or?
it is, I think Hammerstone. Let me
Okay.
try to flip that on. It's it comes from a data provider that Toss pays for.
Oh,
And every day they have in here who it's from. I think it's Hammerstone.
but is it free? Is it bundled in Thinkorswim?
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's
see.
free with Toss. Yeah. So everybody can get it. And then thanks to the person before who pointed out that if you want to get Trade Flash, just go down here, click the plus sign, and then select Trade Flash. It does have its own specific settings. In terms of, you don't have to get everything. That tends to be all I look at because all of this is related to unusual options activity. Sometimes I'll look at the other stuff, sometimes I don't, but I try and just focus on that. So you can click on that and drill down if you want.
Okay, but while we, before we run out of time, or use all the time, overall, your impression of using, what are some of your overall experiences using Tradier compared to Thinkorswim in terms of like execution fills and order placement? Can it handle all the order types and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, in terms of, so I've been learning the OCOs. You can do the OCOs.
One cancels the other.
Yeah, so you can do it. I mean, everything that matters to me, it's all there. And again, to me, I'm not looking at this as either or. I'm looking at this as both. That I'm still going to use Toss. I am, and I'm going to use Tradier. And I've got 8 screens. Maybe you think that's extreme or whatever, but I can tell you that it's very helpful. For if you're going to use multiple brokers, it's helpful. My experience with it in terms of fills, I think that I have some problems to figure out in terms of what I'm really used to with Toss is like if I just throw something in here, just give me a single. So I am really used to being able to watch a floating mark mid price. And so I haven't figured out how to do that in Tradier. So, you know, that to me is, I didn't really realize how important it was to me until I didn't have it. So it doesn't seem like, at least with Trader Oasis, maybe they can do it or I haven't figured it out yet. I don't see a floating mark when I throw something in there, but basically I have not found anything that Tradier can't do that I did on Toss other than that.
That's great. That's great. So okay, so you have both options open to you as you open your day. You can
Yeah.
trade on either side of your two accounts. And how much are you tempted to use one or the other? How, you know?
Well, I mean, I'll admit I'm pretty tempted to use Toss, especially since the markets have been more active lately, and I can't just let an order sit there. And you know, a lot of things I sort of have to tell myself it's not bad, it's just different. You know, in terms of
Yeah.
how Tradier does things. So I'm very used to the control click on the trade tab, so it's just boom, boom, boom. Those are the options I want. Well, with Tradier, they use it's the shift key, and you don't, if you want to sell, you don't click on the bid, you click on the ask. So you know, there's a little bit of a learning curve there, and you have to also memory going. But yeah, I think it's helpful for me to have both platforms open at the same time. You know, I do it on Toss, and then I do the same thing in Tradier. You know, and then I say, oh, I click the control key again, not the shift key. You know, so yeah, I've had little kind of mini bake-offs where I've got a Toss order, you know, working at a certain price. I got, you know, the Tradier order in at the exact same price, seeing which one gets filled at, and you know, they've both been basically like right there.
But
Okay.
have you been doing a significant amount of trading on Tradier, or are you still doing 90% of your trading on
I
Thinkorswim?
have so right now I pretty much got rid of all my positions. I had stuff that expired at the end of the quarter. But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to, it's been hard with when the market's been more active. I'm like, I just can't do a fat finger on Tradier. So I'm just going to do it with Toss. And it's been a process of getting rid of, you know, my older position on Toss, etc. At this point, yeah, I mean, I'm more actively trading on Tradier, sort of forcing myself to do it. Yeah, I mean, as an aside, I'll just mention that. So I spent, in terms of, they don't break out the commissions at Toss. They basically say commissions and fees. So I spent over $11,000 with Toss in terms of commissions and fees for last year. And I thought, okay, I'm going to switch to Tradier if there's, but I'm not going to close my Toss account. Is there any time to ask for a commission reduction? This is it. I spent 11 grand. So they told me that basically, okay, the best we can do, I had 50 cents a contract. The best we can do, 45 cents a contract. They're like, that's, and the guy told me, he said, it's not as easy as it used to be. Because back in the day, I used to just talk with Scott Sheridan and that was it. He was the man. Okay. What else? Okay, so what are the exchange fees traders charging? So that's, I think all that is bundled into the 65 a month. I will try and grab you a link on that. I think I'll wait. And so Martin, if I could wait, and when Don starts the next discussion, I will post a link for you on that. All right, John asks, yeah, just walking through the dates and trades manually. Oh, okay. In terms of the back testing. So I think so. Since you mentioned one in option view, yeah, I mean, I think it's really a question of, yeah, what do you want to back test? I mean, if you want to back test options, yeah, probably one in option view are going to be your best bet. I was thinking more of the underlying when I mentioned TradeStation.
But you can use them on the Tradier platform, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah,
Which would be a huge saving. If you're going to pay the fee anyway, you've paid the fee, I think, for a Tradier, so everything is totally free, essentially.
yeah, and to top it off, what I learned, and I'll see if I can find the link with that. So I know with Trader Oasis that if you pay an additional 20 bucks a month, I think it is, you can add on 2 more accounts and the commissions will be free in those accounts too. So then, I'm thinking, okay, so my taxable account, I just pay 65 bucks a month, and then I can open my 2 IRA accounts and I don't pay any commissions in my IRA. That's, ooh, love that. All right, so what else question wise? So is there a limit on the number of trades you can trade per month? No, there isn't. So you pay a flat fee, unlimited option. So what this does too, I mean, it opens up the amount of strategies that you can do. So if any of you are familiar with gamma scalping, you would not gamma scalp at a per contract kind of rate, but could you, if you liked gamma scalping, I'll admit I sort of do. You can, it actually becomes a doable strategy. It's 65 bucks a month if you want to be fairly active. Okay, so all right, so Don, I think at this point I have answered all the questions. I have gone a little bit over, I think. The only thing I would want to cover is for somebody who wants, give me the most advanced stuff. That's all I have left to cover, unless there's any more questions or anything else you'd like to address. So, and I think I don't, let me see if I gave the links. I did not. Okay, so let me give you
Okay, well, we can move on, to my part, and you're welcome to be a very active participant. I'm counting on it.
Okay.
In that part also. So it's really just merging in here and actually answering some of the, or touching on some of the questions that people have been asking. And then, we can see how much time is left at the end.
All right, cool.
Or you can always come back another time for some of the advanced stuff. But what is it about, basically, just in a sentence or two, so that we'll know that what you're thinking about for the advanced stuff.
All right, so I absolutely love the books by Brian Johnson. So I have read the first 4. I haven't read the 5th one. This is the latest one. So if you're really advanced, honestly, if you're new, I would say don't read these books. They'll confuse the heck out of you. But if you really love advanced stuff and you feel like there isn't anything else to learn, I would say read these, because this guy, Brian Johnson, he's a prop trader, so he's not gonna talk with you about pricing models, whatever. He's gonna talk with you about what works, what's concrete. Basically I think every one of the books that I have, anyway, I don't have this one, but so this one is probably my favorite. It helped me a lot in my earnings trading. I would say if you're really into the Greeks, then read chapter 4 about true Greeks. Read that with open mind. It'll be super, super interesting. The other one, this is really good. This talks about things like when I was talking about looking at options multidimensionally instead of one-dimensionally, like what's my theta, and that's all that matters. He talks about things like delta theta ratios in this book, and he also talks about, none of this is what I was looking for, but so I'll just say it. His other books, since it's not showing up for whatever reason. Maybe if
Well, Brian is a member of this group, and he lives right here in the Triangle, and so he's a very active member of our, well, of our group. He's spoken a number of times, and we're hoping to get him back soon on the books you're mentioning.
He's great. I mean, this book, if you're interested, option back testing, I would read this book, because he's already done the option back testing, gives a whole bunch of back test results in this book. This one is super interesting. Even if you don't trade earnings, who cares? It's really about understanding that when the pricing model goes wrong, what do you need to understand? Because the pricing model can go very wrong on earnings. If you are interested in hedging, that one's really good. Overall risk management, totally solid. Love the books. So that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me see. So that's great, Dave. We really appreciate it, and please, we'd like to pursue, I think, in the future more about Tradier, and maybe we'll get Mr. The organizer, or the man who developed that this option program for that, to talk, and maybe you can take part in that too. People got a lot out of that. Let me do this, get into this quickly now, if you don't mind, and then we can approach it again from that angle. So let me see if I can share. Let me just see. How do I share a screen?
Well, I will stop my share. That might help.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so you can release your video order here. Okay, let me just see. Share screen, and then, okay, here we go. What do people see it now, or?
Yep, we can see it, Don.
Really? You see the broker commissions?
Yep.
Oh, fantastic. It's completely different on the presenter side, and it always throws me a little bit. So, see, we approached it there from the point of view of from sort of Tradier out, some of the strengths of Tradier versus Thinkorswim. Let's now approach it from the broader point of view of choice of brokerage. Now, what are all of the brokers that you can look at, or the main ones that are used by option traders? And what are some of their strengths and weaknesses, and why might you trade? Why might you select Tradier? I mean, I think people already know why you might select Thinkorswim. Let's just look here. So some of the brokers that people look at are Thinkorswim, and there's two rates, as we've been discussing. Let me just say, okay, there's two rates, as we've been discussing. There's the commission rate, and here are the commission rates, and then we'll go on and say, and what are the exchange fees, which is the so-called single listed option fee, which is also called the license fee for index options. That's the killer for relative to straight stocks. On straight stocks, all you pay is the commissions shown here. And then on SPX and other indexes, Standard & Poor's has to be paid their tribute. So there's another fee added on top. But let's first look at the base commission rate that applies to all stocks and indexes. And that is what I have here. You notice they're all clustered around 55 cents. A leg, I should say a contract. So let's say you have 10 contracts, you're buying 10 calls, or you're buying 5 puts and 5 calls, then it would be 10 times this amount. Is that right, Ryan?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so that's the base commission. Now, the miracle here that we're talking about is, well, everybody is charging these, and that includes all of the brokers who claim. Thank you. That's wonderful that you caught that, because all those buttons have disappeared now from my screen. Super, thank you. So the brokers all advertise 0 commissions. Well, it's not 0 for options traders. They pay they charge this per option fee, and they say, well, that doesn't count. We'll charge for that. So there's one exception here, a couple of exceptions, and that's TradeHawk. It's $0 per contract. If you pay $85 per month, or from some, there was a special offer, $60 per month to Arimer Trader members. So join Arimer. I mean, you're all many of your members already, and as far as I know, you get the $60 per month. I mean, unless he's raised it, it's still there on the Arimer site. So either $85 or $60 per month, you pay $0 per contract. That means you can trade things, as Dave was saying, like gamma scalping, where all day long you're trying to pick the one side or the other of the curve to keep it neutral. Or how about trading SPX instead of SPY? The other way around. How about trading SPY instead of SPX? If we have to pay the fee on SPX, but we don't have to pay it on SPY, then that could be a huge saving in cost at $0 per contract. Does anyone know, Martin, do you know, is that the case? Is anyone trading SPX? I'm sorry, SPY to replace SPX to save commissions?
Yes.
People are doing that?
Yes.
Are you doing it? Well, certain people are doing that. And it seems to me that I've heard people saying they're doing that. So anyway, the others are all around 60 cents anyway per leg. Interactive brokers, 25 cents for lower priced options. And now that's not the end of it, that's not the end of it, because on top of that, we have the proprietary index license fee, which is also called single listed option fee. I suspect the license fee is the correct name for it, but a lot of the brokerages are calling it single listed index options fee. I have a feeling they're just, that the actual correct name is proprietary index license fee, meaning that money has to go to SPX for use of their computations of their index. So I looked last night on the CBOE site, and it says that this fee is 45 cents per contract. And the RUD is only 18 cents, by the way. So there's a lot to be said for trading the RUD. And now looking, IB, Interactive Brokers, also charges at 45 cents, and so now does Tradier. So that agrees. And looking at the sites for the other brokers, they're mostly a bit higher, but perhaps perhaps the site is just out of date and they're actually charging 45. Does anyone know, is Thinkorswim still charging 58?
Yeah, I'm looking at my mobile device right now. It is 58.
So they're actually overcharging for that fee. Somebody should call them on that, unless they want to say, well, we're bundling in some other fee or something like that.
Yeah, I think there are some other smaller fees that are bundled in with that.
Does it start at 45?
No, it's always 58 cents.
Oh, really? So you mean they charge even more than 58
No, it's all
overall?
it says the option exchange fees are fixed at 58.
Yeah. Oh, it does.
Mhm.
So, and that is true for a number of them. I mean, supposedly Tastyworks is also bundling in a couple more and getting it up to 78 cents. Some people, well, I think Ryan was the one who looked into this, as a matter of fact. Now, maybe Schwab and Fidelity are not charging for this fee. Does anyone have an opinion on that? Martin, do you think they are not charging that? Because I know you've done a lot of research on this. Anyway, it's sort of really hard to tell for sure, because some people say that the firm is not charging it, but then, they're charging it under some other category, like miscellaneous fees or clearing fee or something like that. But there is a possibility that Schwab and Fidelity are not charging this fee. And in any case, Tradier and IB are charging exactly the same as the exchange says it is. So, Martin, do you have any other comments on that? I know you were asking about posting on that during the chat. Oh, he says the prices, they look cheap. And Martin says, I've always paid more as a retail taster trader. So, well, Ryan actually, I should have put, that's a typo there, of course. So I think this was your computation, Ryan, but of course I could have goofed it up. But he says $1.13 for Thinkorswim. If you add those two numbers we've been discussing together, okay, yeah, you can lease, yeah, you
I think
can't.
the standard is 65 cents commission, but if you trade any kind of volume, you can easily get 55, and it sounds like even maybe a better commission than that. But the exchange fee, I don't think is comparable.
It's lower. And so for the total, I mean, it's maybe the same Thinkorswim by around the same, and Tastyworks too. But some people are saying that high exchange fee, which appears to be somewhat illegitimate, is the main reason they don't use tastytrade, because it just, may not be adequate. Oh, there's another thing about Tasty. Amy Meissner, and I have a reference at the end of these slides, says that they've agreed to only charge 50 cents up front if you sign up with her referral. But I have a feeling that if you did exit the trade, it would be $1. I imagine that's the idea. Does anyone know for sure about that? Anyway, I would prefer it be 50 cents per side than $1 up front, because that way, if you let the option expire worthless, you don't get charged, at least with many brokers. Again, you'd have to negotiate that with Tradier. So I mean, this would be also another example of where we save the commission fee would be hugely decisive. Would be if you're doing automated trading. And again, if you want to look at Tradier, they are one of the best known automated APIs. I mean, that's what their actual forte has been from the beginning. John, do you find that at all attractive potentially for if you're looking at automated trading?
John, unfortunately, just dropped off. He had to run.
Okay, thank you. Now, there is one thing that you lose when you go to the, as you choose a cheaper broker, and that is called the direct access. If we look here, direct access allows you to route your order to a specific exchange. And now included in exchange, we have black pools, electronic computer networks, and market makers. Some of the brokers that do offer this are Lightspeed, Interactive Brokers, and TD Ameritrade Thinkorswim. This allows you to recover, to avoid having an order sold to as part of payment for order flow. Dave, are you aware of this payment for order flow issue, and what do you think of it?
I think payment for order flow, I've tried to look into it and really get like direct answers in terms of, okay, how does it work? There is some kind of disclosure document that I think the brokers are supposed to provide. I can't remember what that is.
Yeah, there is.
I think you have to ask for it though. And I did actually read that once. And to me, it just raised more questions than answers. So
Okay.
I think what I've concluded is that with payment for order flow, just assume everybody's doing it. I mean,
Okay, Ron, well, see, the other thing is, well, there are a lot of traders I can tell you on Elite Trader who won't even consider paying it. And they say they will only trade either direct access or something very similar to that. And they say that it's just not worth it because, let's admit it, when you're trading with, let's say, Tradier or Webull or Robinhood or the light version of Interactive Brokers, you're not going to get the same quality of fills. Would you agree with me, Ryan?
I would agree. Yeah. And I would say the default settings on Thinkorswim as well. You have to set it up specifically for direct access.
Have you been doing that?
I have not yet. I actually was planning to switch to Interactive Brokers. I just have not taken the time.
Okay. So, and is that the reason you would be switching to Interactive Brokers?
Yeah. I mean, if you compare the commissions, they're virtually the same, but you can completely payment for order flow. We had the Interactive Brokers folks on a couple months ago, and I think they did a fantastic job and they touched on this subject.
Yeah. It's even more complicated because Interactive Brokers gives you also credits in certain, if you add liquidity on certain orders, you can cut your commissions for that way also. And I've actually seen people on Elite Trader who say that they make enormous cuts. They cut their commissions down to a fraction, close to even making money in some months with certain types of option trading. I think that doesn't work so well probably with index options. I'm not sure, but I think that it may not work. Have you looked into that at all, Ryan?
I saw that when I did the research on Interactive Brokers, and I think it's there in the chart. That's the
you've got it.
You're going to pay is the same at TD Ameritrade, but you might actually pay less in commissions.
Yeah. Now, if you go for zero commissions at Tradier, and that is not matched at Interactive Brokers. Right? That they will not give you zero commissions, even in their light version, on per contract fees. So it's a trade-off you have to make. You'd lose direct access, which may give you pretty unacceptable fills in some cases. We've seen cases, some of our members, where let's say you put in a limit order If you put it in through the aggregator, the payment for order flow system, the negotiated contract system that is the default on Thinkorswim and is mandatory on Tradier, you very seldom, the reality is, let's say the market opens strongly where your order could be bettered. You won't get that betterment order. They'll just give you a limit order. Whereas if you have access to the most sophisticated access, direct access type of routing, we've seen cases where you'll make a huge profit. If the market opens much more favorably than you bargained for in your limit, than you estimated in your limit order. And here are some good discussions of, okay, gamma scalping, not much in background. Just looking at the questions here. Okay. And Warrior Trading is one firm that has to know how to trade, how to make the right selection of broker, because I think people know who they are. I mean, that guy's made what, millions or billions or whatever, hundreds of millions. And they have a number of sites on their pages on their site to discuss, this issue. And they have broker recommendations. So for those of you looking for good fills and good costs, I would look at their stuff. One of the tricks in negotiated commissions is, let's say some of the commissions shown on Warrior Trading are only for their members. You can still use in the bargain when you make some tenuous connection with Warrior Trading, try a trial or whatever, and then call up the broker and ask for those rates. A lot of times they may give them to you anyway. If you merely mention Warrior Trading, so you don't necessarily have to meet all the qualifications to be able to use them as a negotiating point. Now, a lot of people say they won't switch from Thinkorswim or interactive brokers because of the strength of the platforms. But I think Dave showed us that some of the platforms that are available with Tradier are approaching adequate. I tell you, I've accepted very low quality platforms at times. Let's say you keep your Thinkorswim account and you place one order there and you place 10 at a zero cost. I mean, that has to be attractive, in my opinion. There are some specialized platforms also like LiveVol that also alter this equation. Here are some of the special offers that I mentioned. Amy Meissner, I don't know if that link will get it to you or not. It's a link that Amy posted, and elsewhere she said she negotiated that 50-cent open off for Tastyworks, but you could contact her on Amy or Arimer and ask her. And then we have the offer we meant where you can save a lot on Tradier. I should have mentioned, by the way, that Tradier has, did I have this here? Tradier has another tier you could get for $10 per month at 35 cents per contract. And you could even get it down to $0 per month if you use a very basic platform. So, you could start there if you don't want to pay this. If you don't want to pay the $60.85, you can start out at $10 per month for Tradier and give it a try. I'm certainly going to, I think. And so that's another aspect of this. Let me just see. Warrior Trading there, I mentioned that. So Ryan, what are the discussions in the chat that I've been talking over?
Oh, nothing much. People were just asking about like, in a fast moving market, do commissions even really matter? And I would say that it just really depends on the strategy and what you're trading. There, if commissions are high, there's certain strategies that are just not going to work. We mentioned gamma scalping. If you're trading really tight butterflies or iron condor or something like that, where I'm sorry, or calendar spreads, um, that would also kind of put those strategies, kind of take them out of the mix. But if it was commission free or near zero commissions, then yeah, it kind of opens up some additional avenues.
The quality of fills, however, may become also more critical if you're trading in a fast moving market. And so there's sort of conflicting uh, impulses there, perhaps. And I'm just reading these. What else should we say here? Does anyone have any questions or points? Ryan, could you contribute some more thoughts?
I'm curious if anybody is using any other platforms that we mentioned. I guess we had Fidelity in there, we had Schwab, Tradier, from trading option strategies or specifically a campaign style strategy. Has anybody had success with that? Trading a campaign, keeping track of their profit and loss across several weeks or months for a particular campaign. I know that there's ways to do it in Thinkorswim. I don't have a tremendous amount of experience with the other platforms. Is anybody having success with that?
So Ryan, this is Dave. I mean, I've tried that in the past, and I really, I've not found any tools that are really successful with that. So I've just wound up, keeping my own Google sheet for that. But like I mentioned before, that is the kind of thing that Trader Oasis will allow you to, basically bundle up a bunch of trades. And unlike a lot of other brokers, when the option expires, they allow you to maintain that cost basis. So that used to be a bigger deal, more of how I used to trade. It's not as big of a deal to me now.
Okay.
But,
Okay. Has anyone else answered Ryan's
Hello,
question?
Don. Hello, Don. This is Dan Queen.
Oh, hi, Dan.
I just want to comment on the order chains feature, or keeping up with a running total of your credit received, and the Tasty Works, which I've used for the past year, I guess, has developed one that works quite well, as long as you get the fill is not partially filled. If you order, say, a 10 lot, it gets filled in, a 5 lot, excuse me, say a 7 lot, a 3 lot. But if it gets filled as a 10 lot, it's usually fairly perfect, and it seems to work. In the beginning, it was only for a limited amount of time, but it seems to work at least for trades going up to 180 days or even longer these days.
Would you consider that, Ryan?
Yeah, possibly. I'd have to see it. That's interesting. That's a new thing they recently introduced, a new feature.
Yeah, it's fairly well. I guess it's about 6 months old. Well, probably a little longer than that, but they introduced it for just to see how it was going to weight the platform. You get a lot of tosses, gets fairly slow at times.
Oh yeah.
And the Tasty Works has always tried to value themselves at being a very fast and light platform, and it's still fast. And looking at some of these, that was one of my questions: is how well and how responsive some of these other arrangements are. But if you have a issue with the platform and it's not giving you the right answer, usually a call, or these days I just forward them an email, and in a few minutes it's fixed and it's correct again. But I'm, as said earlier, I don't really trust anything, so I got used to logging it on an Excel spreadsheet to see where my trades are. And I do other things on the spreadsheet too, so that's a little bundle, but it's very convenient to have that order chain feature up there, and at any moment you can see whether that what your current collection of credit is.
Somebody mentioned in the chat live vol. I have used the demo of that and seen, I mean, many successful traders use live vol. I found the demo to be a little bit clunky, but it may just been the demo rather than the actual product. Is there anybody here using live vol?
Has anyone used live vol?
So this is Dave. I used to use it, and I found the same thing, and I just decided that I wasn't going to be that much into implied volatility anymore, to where it made that much of a difference for my trading, at least. But yeah, I wasn't able to get much out of it.
Yeah, it's more for specialized approaches, but there's some very attractive, if you start trading some of these VIX related indexes. Some people are really heavily into that. Let me just see here.
Yeah, specifically, I was referring to the desktop. I guess it's called Sterling. What's the name of it? Sterling Live Vol or something?
Yeah. Well, they've got about 8 different names for it. It's because it was licensed, and then there's a lowest cost version is from the CME, no, the CBOE, or else the CME. I think the CBOE directly. But there's Sterling is more the actual developer of it, I think. It's pretty complicated. There's a bunch of different versions of it. Now, at one point, one of these brokers, Lightspeed, was giving it away for free. And although he says they're not doing it anymore, I still see sites that say it's free from live vol. So I think Lightspeed. So I have a feeling that if you might be able to get the fee cut back to much lower or even zero.
Now you're referring to the exchange fee, right? They were not charging that exchange fee for a while, and you only had to pay the commission.
Well, that's another factor from them, but I'm actually referring to the licensing fee right now for the software licensing fee. That's another software license for the platform fee. Right now, they charge extra, or they take away benefits as if they were which amount to the same thing. If you use live vol, you have to pay extra compared to using their platform, or else. Yeah, I think you're right. Some of the other fees, maybe including that software licensing fee, are not charged if you do not use live vol, and are charged if you do use live vol. But I have a feeling. I've also seen one of the offers from. Let me see who it was. From one of the brokers said that Warrior Trading has a special deal with Lightspeed, where the fees are cut way back, or somewhat cut back. So you could look at their fees or talk to them. I'm telling you, this product. There has to be some way of having it actually behave properly. Anyway, who else has other points or wants to ask any questions?
Hey, Don, it's Dave. Yeah, going back to the SPX versus SPY question, I've been doing that a fair amount lately.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and just a different idea. Instead of especially for some of my smaller accounts, I really like the fact that with the market moving around more, I don't have to sort of lock in my SPX price, all at one level. So that with SPY, with the market moving around more, what I'm trying to do is say, okay, give me, just work a bunch of orders. Say, all right, give me 2 contracts of SPY. It may be 10% more credit than where it's sitting at now. Okay, then let's see if I can get another it like 2 cents better kind of thing, in allowing that to sort of scale me in, because I've seen where sometimes when I get filled with SPX, I can wind up going, man, I wish I didn't, sort of like core all my risk at that price kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's really exciting in a way because a lot of the strategies we have, which are like many multi-leg strategies, are very hard to trade in a low-sized account. And if people can trade SPY without paying 10 times the commission, all of a sudden you can experiment with a lot of these strategies at very low risk and very low, very low account size. So I think really, and if you look at some of the links I have, I'll make the slides available. If you look at some of the links I have at Warrior Trading, they have some still other brokers for people who are right down as low as, below the $25,000 amount, which is pattern day trader, right? Which strictly limits people who have small accounts can't really trade right now in most brokers actively. They can't trade active trades because they don't have $25,000 in their account. And you can get around that with, and this is a different tangent to go on, but you can get around that with using a Bermuda broker. I mean, it might appall you, but some of these brokers, they're recommended by the Warrior Trading guy, and he uses them himself. So I think you could put money there and get into option trading where you couldn't now by trading SPX. Because some of them are also extremely low commission, although not as low as Tradier.
I think
Go ahead.
I'll say one point on that. So if you're trading it in a retirement account where taxes don't really matter, then that, you probably actually could do better by saving on commissions using SPY and something like that, like a Tradier. But you got to take into consideration the 1256 tax implications of trading SPX over SPY. And if like that difference in what you're going to be paying in tax at the end of the year, is that going to be greater or less than the amount that you're going to pay in saving commissions?
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling that that's debatable. My personal opinion is, I mean, if you look at the statute, it says generally traded index baskets or something like that. I mean, I don't see why SPY wouldn't qualify, but some people say it doesn't, and some people say it does. Is that right, or do you think the consensus is that it does not qualify for Section 1256?
I'm not a tax expert. Is anybody else care to comment on that?
So Don, this is Dave. Yeah, so I actually took some classes on this. Basically what it comes down to is that it's a matter of lobbying. And so my understanding is that the exchanges want you to trade their proprietary products. So they are the ones who lobbied for the Section 1256. And my understanding is that SPY is not eligible from what the tax person I talked to said.
Okay, when I last looked into it, I had the opposite opinion myself. and I found some authority for it, but I could be completely mistaken. So, so don't go by what I say. Ryan, you were saying something?
Yeah, I just know that TD Ameritrade, they file it under a different section. So
They do.
yeah, it's sent to the IRS specifically as what do they call it, straddles and whatever.
Mhm.
If it's SPX, but not if it's SPY.
So, okay, now we had a question about what traders what platforms do professionals use? There are some others as well. Lightspeed is definitely one. I think that's the most common one that is used. I mean, some of them do use Thinkorswim and Interactive Brokers, but there's some others as well. I can't remember their names that they do use, but there's nothing that seems to be viable for us, or is there? Does anyone know of any professional platforms that they prefer? I mean, you could write your own platform, perhaps, with Tradier, and it's darn tempting to do that. I mean, a ridiculously large task, but you could. Any other questions or comments? Are we getting? Oh, we're getting close to 9. Dave, did you want to add anything before we close it down?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
So thank you for the opportunity to present. And I hope people, got something out of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think originally we had the possibility of having somebody from Tradier, and we might yet go back and do that. But I thought it would be more valuable, and I think it worked out well, to have somebody who's actually using it talk about it, rather than, at this point anyway, have the company itself talk. Well, I think IB and TD have REST APIs. Yeah, that's true, they do. I think the Tradier, I don't know if it's a REST API or not. They have an API.
What does REST API mean, please?
You can program against it using programming language.
But you can call other web services as well. You just have to use some things like WSDL, right? You just have to be a little more sophisticated in your programming. I mean, I think some people are not even enthusiastic about REST, but there's no doubt it is the trend. And that's right. IB recommends it now over their old API. A lot of the material you'll see is using their old API, but they recommend the REST API. Very good. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Let me see if I can. Ryan, do you want to stop the recording, please?